of the Department of MBA, BMS Institute of Technology and Management, I, Dr. Jyoti Singh, Associate Professor, welcome you all for today's event, panel discussion on Union Budget 2023. Ladies and gentlemen, to formally open, let's start the event by giving the words of welcome.
A very important occasion that we all are here, and very happy that the who's who of finance are here, especially from Bangalore, who have contributed nationally and internationally. I thank the BMS Institute of Technology and Management, particularly Department of MBA, for organizing such an important discussion and timely, because it's been just not more than 48 hours the nation has witnessed the budget. Just to set the context, while we all know about our panelists now, as all of us are aware, as a democratic nation, our constitution is the foundation for all of the debates and discussion the nation has. Incidentally, and also as a part of the constitution, Article 112 recommends that budget must be placed to the public and discussed and debated in the parliament. And rightly so, it has happened. And some of the important components of the budget are under two categories. One is the capital budget, the other one is the revenue budget. So, from the general point of view that we see across the country, there is also there are experts who understand these differences. There are many who are keen to know the differences, so which I'll come to in a few minutes on your thoughts on that. But before that, why should we know about the budget? How does it affect our day-to-day life? One is those who are in the domain, they definitely know how important it is, but those who are indirectly getting affected by it. So I call this, in a very optimistic way, the Panchamrit of understanding this. First is why budget is important. First, it ensures efficient allocation of resources, which affects our day-to-day life. Right. Second, it will help to reduce unemployment and poverty. It's an aspiration that all citizens look towards, right from the person who is dependent on daily livelihood to the person who is also contributing to the national economy. Third, it will also help to reduce wealth and income disparities, because democracy is built on how do we narrow this disparity and how do we create sort of equity in the entire nation like we are, because very diverse financially as well as in terms of culture, etc. Fourth is to keep check on prices, because early morning the cost of the milk is important for me as a basic common man, and how that will percolate down to the international market is what you know the journey. And fifth, I think the changing tax structure. So we have Mr. Ravi with us today, who is an expert with this, and we also have with us Mr. Jagdish Ahuja, who you just know from the introduction. Then of course Mr. Kaushik also, who is there with us. So before I get into the specific questions, so may I request Mr. Ravi to share your quick overview of what was your understanding of the Union budget from your point of view, and how would our common man understand the budget? Very briefly, sir.
This particular Union budget has been a very important thing, because we have the general elections coming shortly.
Yeah.
The government has to look at its winning the elections.
Correct.
It's quite obvious, and also see to that whatever aspects was taken up in the last 2 years will continue. In fact, I think the direction of this Union budget, as mentioned, the Saptarushi, there are 7 aspects. About 7 aspects are the I would say the main aspirations of the country. The government wants to see to that these aspirations are taken care of. Now, as far as one of the major things which has happened when you compare to the budgets of the past. Earlier, it used to be that I am going to give you 5 lakhs here, I am going to give to this state, I am going to give to that state. Now, if you see this budget, they just simply state, we give 1.5 lakh crore for infrastructure. They just give a number, and they say this, in this particular area we would like to invest. Now, this is the final aspects as to where what will be taken care next.
Yes.
So here, I would say the government is looking at a more broader perspective.
Yes.
And even when you talk about direct taxes, indirect taxes, we always have seen direct taxes used to take at least 20 minutes, another indirect taxes about 20 minutes, about central excise, customs, all that. Now what has happened with GST embarked committee in place? no decision on GST can be taken by the union budget. The finance minister cannot take anything. It is the council which is comprising the central government and the state governments who can take a decision. So even in the in terms of these direct taxes, I can only say that there has been in the last 3 to 4 years, the government has seen to that they do not want to meddle with the tax rates as much as possible. They want to keep it more broader. They want to make it more simpler. They want to use more technology, and that is what they have. Looked into the direct taxes. As far as customs and central excise, as you've seen, customs and all have just a few small things, small changes happened, and I think nowadays everything is not waited for the budget. The government comes out with new notifications, new circulars. Everything happens on an ongoing basis. So budget is no more what it was. You wait for 1 year and announce all the SOPs or whatever. So that I feel has to a great extent diluted by the present government.
Yes. So I think that the gap between continuity and aspiration also is very important to capture. On the other hand, as you rightly said, sir, the direction towards populism now because of elections coming in and etc. So how do you see, Mr. Ahuja, in terms of your the what you call the Wikipedia perspective of the budget for the common man?
Well, basically, I think the budget is like cotton candy. We all have cotton candy, right? Lot of fluff, lot of stuff around, and makes it look very big. But actually, when you go and see, it doesn't have the stuff which actually needs to be done. One thing good about this budget is that it has focused on infrastructure and kicked off the Amrit Kal. Now, what do you mean by Amrit Kal? I would like to just dwell a little on this Amrit Kal. Now, India is at 75 years, right? For a country, we are young. And of course, for human life, of course, it's definitely old. But at a country, today we are at that beautiful stage where Japan was in the 70s, where America was in the 80s, where the tiger economies were in the 90s, and Singapore and all that were there. And in 2000, where China was. So we have reached that stage. And this is the stage where your youth is raring to go, your infrastructure needs to be in place. Because India today has taken the lead, if you see, from digitally. But what about actual manufacturing? And now India is coming of age. We can see that India is the second largest exporter of mobiles. So what's happening? There is an undertone shift is also happening. So infrastructure is one sector. When you give, like, say, if they are building rural housing and they're putting 79,000 crores in rural housing, every house which is built, 270 companies benefit. Different industries. Different, from plastics to brakes to cement, to transport to labor. So it's a trigger sort of thing, and this is very important for any nation. So I think the best part of this budget is that a 33% increase in infrastructure, and another 33% on railways. We are seeing there's been a 2.4 lakh crores. So that sort of money which comes in actually makes the budget viable. On the taxation front, I mean, he'll tell you that it's going to be cotton candy, but otherwise, more or less, I feel that the thrust on infrastructure and remaining there, of course, at a cost of debt, which we come to in our course of discussion. That's one thing. So
I'm very excited because you started with cotton candy.
Yes.
So it looks very, but also it is sweet. The second part of your perspectives was also that there is some hope and expectation from the budget.
Exactly.
While it appears like that, but I think we need to unpack the
fine print. He will tell you on that.
Yes. So we should see the stick behind the cotton candy and see how it will be. That's the intent. So, Dr. Kaushik, I think you have been into various interesting domains. Also learning today that you have also been acting, and that's another hobby. But how do you see as union budget as a citizen of a nation and as an investor and as
so thank you.
Yes.
So I think it's, if I look at it, you started very nicely saying the morning milk price is very important, and my wife will say what happened to the gold price. And for her also there is a good news. There's lab grown diamonds are being pushed. So if anybody is interested to pursue the track, I think it's a golden era for that as well. But if I look at it from a technology and innovation management, like Ahuja said, there is a fundamental shift. We had talked so much about the demographic dividend that we have. Now that will not automatically get us success. So there are a lot of people in this campus who are the bright stars, the North Stars of tomorrow. For them, there are two aspects. What is it that they can do? What is it that we can do to help that generation become the takers to the Amrit Kal? Because we are getting into the other half of our lives and they are in the first half of their lives. So if you look at it from that perspective, startups are something which we have about 77,000 of them in all kinds of sectors. We are number 3 in the world, so that means we have a lot more to do after US and China from a startup ecosystem. But startups are something like which is on one side based on innovation and technology. So there's an individual aspect where you and me as a person will bring something to the table. Then for it to become and grow into business like the Tatas or the Birlas, the ecosystem, the taxes, the legalities have to help them. So I think there is a provision in this budget for both sides. We are number 40 in the Global Innovation Index, so which is a very good. A leap of 41 ranks in 7 years is not the easiest thing to do. It will get harder from here, but we are in the right place at the right time. On the other side, coming from an incentive, taxation, not everything is sorted out. Angel tax is still, there is a lot of things around, but there are a lot of things that are sorted out. So to become a good startup, to consider areas for startup, just to give, I got excited when I was actually listening and making notes as she was speaking, is that tourism. People did not think, oh, tourism is not for me. I'm from BMSIT. No, tourism is for you. Virtual connectivity for tourism, for local and international travels. So opportunities all around. Agriculture, tourism, fintech, of course technology, IoT, AI, AI for India, AI in India. I think if I were you, I would be totally excited because this is a once in a lifetime window that we are getting. Because as an individual we have to excel, but as a system, the budget is fully supporting.
Yeah. So I think two important points which I captured among many other things which leads to continuity of the discussion is there are bright stars. So maybe they will also become blind spots if they don't make the best out of this whole ecosystem. And as you said, angel tax details have to work to should ask Mr. Ravi sir on angel tax, but the devil is in the detail.
Yeah.
So I think we need to unpack that. So coming to this taxes part, because I'm sure there's a lot of learning for all of us, because by March to August, we all, the common man is behind this whole taxation regime, what is it and all. So what do you see as the major hits and misses with regard to direct tax, particularly in the union budget?
So what I'll do is, I just would like to say a few words.
Please.
The finance minister mentioned in her budget speech.
Sure.
She said, I aim to maintain continuity, stability, simplify, rationalize, reduce compliance burden is what, but I think all of us know compliance is increasing. More it increases, it's good for the child. Promote entrepreneurial spirit, provide tax relief to citizens, and making compliance simple and easy. This is what her intentions are. And accordingly, they want to do a common income tax return. Now, either two, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, there are so many returns. Now they want to make a common income tax return and see to that things are much better. Now, I would like to dwell upon about 6 or 7 points on the direct taxes, which are very, very important. Because I do not want to look at from the public point of view, from a common man. One point is, now, as you know, in the income tax appeals, many of the cases in the CIT appeals, there is a pending, it takes 2 to 3 years. Now, what she has done, she said, I am going to appoint joint commissioners. And all small cases, please to be very clear, small cases will be taken up by them, and I will look into that, it's completely clear. So that is one sort of thing where the government is intended that they do not want too much of these appeals and all being pending. So that is one thing. Now coming back to there is one very, very important from the industry point of view, MSME. Now, as you all know, MSMEs get their payments from the vendors, from say BML or HA, whatever, all the public sector as well as the private. What was happening, they do not get the money in time. Though it is 30 days or 45 days, they get it after 6 months, 9 months. The government, what they did was, they said, okay, in the audit report, that the auditor has to mention what are the amount due to MSMEs. And that was one thing, which it was a sort of a indication as to this company has not paid to MSMEs. But now they have done one very, very interesting thing. What they have said is, assuming I am due to that company, say about 50 lakhs, and to your company about 100 lakhs. This 150 lakhs, out of 150 lakhs, if I paid you about 25 lakhs, 125 lakhs is not yet paid by me. If I do not pay it, it will be added to your income. So you will pay 30% on that. That will make the big companies to pay off immediately, and then MSMEs are to a great extent saved. I think this is one very, very important aspect.
Very encouraging.
Very encouraging for MSMEs who don't, for them, finance is the lifeline.
Yes.
So this is one area where I feel the government has taken a very strong step. And I think most of the big companies have to be careful. Otherwise, they have to. Then what they do is, when you make the payment, they allow. So tomorrow, next year, you make 50 lakhs payment to them. At that time, they allow. It's not that you lose.
Yes.
So you pay fast, you get the benefit. You don't pay, you don't get the benefit. So it is like, it's a section 43B is what it's called. The allowance is done, the deduction is allowed on payment basis. So that is one very, very important point. The other point I wanted to also mention was about capital gains. Now, capital gains, what used to happen, I sell a property for say 2 crores and I invest, I get an exemption of 54 or 54F depending on whether it is a residential house or a non-residential house. Now what has happened, hitherto the intention of the government was, okay, you sold something, they want you to help you in getting another house and give you exemption. But what happened, now today real estate cost, now they have limited to 10 crores. In other words, what it means is, I sell a property for say 25 crores, I used to put entire 25 crores in another property in a residential house or a couple of residential houses, and at the end of the day I wouldn't pay any tax. Now they said this intention of the government was not that. You about 10 crores, no exemption. Up to 10 crores you can take the exemption of section 54, over and above you have to pay tax. So that is one. As far as personal income tax, I want to also mention to you about personal income tax. What has happened about personal income tax? Hitherto it was a tax saving economy. That means I invest in LIC, PPF, all that, and I get benefit. Now the government says, I think today's world, the youngsters of today do not want to save money. It's all over for our period. Now they say, I don't want, I've increased up to 7 lakhs. You don't put in LIC, you don't put anything. This is a new scheme. Now you pay tax on, you pay tax simple, straight away you pay tax. We do not want you to save money and buy a property, pay interest on housing loan, go for LIC, go for Mediclaim. All that is not wrong. Now this is one area. Now the thinking of the government is, we will not allow you to, we will allow you to spend as much as whatever you want to spend, but pay tax to us. This is a total shift. A total shift. Now coming to the other aspect, now there used to be, I think a lot of people are into gaming, online gaming. In there, they have said earlier 10,000 was the threshold. Now they say even 100 rupees you earn, you have to pay TDS. Now, as far as the other aspects are concerned, for example, regarding as far as there is a removal of exemption of news agency under clause 22B of section 10. That means news agency was getting complete exemption. I don't know, the government was not very happy or whatever. So they said, yes, you people are making money, you pay. That is one thing. Now, the other one more very important point for the common man is the insurance policy, LIC. Now, hitherto, whatever maturity benefits we used to get at the end of the period of 10 years or 15 years, it used to be non-taxable. Now, they have made a restriction. They said up to 5 lakhs. If you invest, at the time of the maturity, whatever maturity benefits you get is tax free. But if it is more than 5 lakhs, the intention of people, particularly HNIs, used to invest a lot of money and used to get all the tax free income at the end of the period. Now they say, no, you will have to, up to 5 lakhs, I will give you the benefit. Over and above 5 lakhs, whatever tax, maturity benefit, it will be taxed. So this is another area where I think the government says no more savings. You want to spend spending economy like the US. Then another aspect of the thing is the overall in the direct taxes particularly, the government is using more and more technology. They want, now we have these faceless assessments. Now there is no question of us going to any income tax officer and there is any sort of influence or a bias. Now this faceless assessment has become so nicely and even appeals have become faceless. Everything, technology is being used more and more, and now with the smaller companies also getting into e-invoicing. So what happens? E-invoicing, you upload the purchases, he uploads the sales, everything, and there's nothing for us to do. So the government is more keen on using technology and trying to. They also want to bring down the number of assessments because scrutiny assessment, they say we'll accept as it is, but we do it on a selective basis. This is another area where the government is looking at.
If I might intervene, just because I wanted to take those 2 points to Mr. Ahuja also, because I think what the macro part taken to eventually will be very useful for the second round of discussion, because we are going to refer to it. But the savings component, that now that we are talking about reduction in savings, or savings as not as our practice, which was age-old practice, right from our grandparents to what we have been followed. So, but there is also a shift towards investment in equity and stock market. And also there is a overarching discussion from the budget, which at least the newspapers carry, is the emphasis on capital markets. Union budget tend to focus on capital markets. So how do you see this transition on one hand, and the other is the Union budget's focus for equity, stock market and bonds going forward? Mr. Ahuja.
See, the biggest concern which comes in direct taxes is what I call nudge. You keep on nudging, finally put you. Now, if you see the new regime and old regime, sir can answer the question. How many of your clients have shifted to the new regime?
Very few.
Very few. That is the reason is that's a flop scheme. Why is it a flop scheme, the new regime?
So could you unpack a little bit on the new regime?
So
again,
the new regime basically strips you of all your savings and exemptions.
And Chapter 6A reduction, like all this.
I think he is the one who can give you more on that.
A lot of papers have this comparison also.
So because we wanted to ensure what your point. That's why.
So that's why I said cotton candy. It's it looks on. When you look at it, it looks very tempting. But if you have the whole cotton candy, maybe it's not good for you. So now the government is trying to nudge you into because it becomes easier for them. Very simple. They don't have to do any more. They don't have to tally anything of yours. Don't have to check your investment, cross-verify your investments. So you just put your income and then you get your benefit. So this scheme, since it's not a good scheme, now they're pushing it literally down your throat, making it by default, and trying to incentivize you to move to this scheme. It's good for them, but for an actual saver, do you think it's good? The answer is no.
But that option is still there. The old scheme you can still continue. The old people can continue.
By default. But by default, you're already on the new scheme. So you have to actually manually, consciously make a representative and say, no, I want the old scheme.
So would that affect the investment in stock?
Exactly, it does. Because see, what happens is, we put in ELSS, we put it, for that equity linked savings schemes, which are 3-year lock-in. You get an ATC benefit on that. Now that benefit also will be removed. Your LIC benefits go. That's why you saw all the life insurance stocks actually crashed almost 10% to 12%. So I understand that you need to plug the ultra HNIs from making 50 crore, 500 crore policies, but at the same time, don't you think it's necessary in today's world with nuclear families, with children today we are looking at a very different social fabric. If this was there in the past, maybe 40 years back, you said you don't want any health insurance, you don't want any, it made sense. But today, does it make sense? Today, does it make sense not to go in for a housing loan and, see that your installments, whatever you're paying, the interest on that, at least that 1.5 or 2 lakhs, whatever the deduction is, you're able to pass it on, and claim an exemption for that. You can afford a house. And even your insurance, health insurance, today cost of medical, I can see that there's a shift. We are going the US model. Consume. But India has been a traditional savers market. 27-28% of our household income is saved, not including gold. If you add gold, it will go to 30-31%. So we are one of the highest savers in the world. Now what happens?
Which was our strength also.
It's always your strength. The point is, this budget has not, one aspect. They could have unlocked this trend. Like India will traditionally go in for gold, and we are, I don't know, worth how many trillions of gold, which is then households. If you can monetize that, then why do you want so much of debt? See, we are borrowing outside. 34 paisa out of every rupee we are borrowing. And 20 paisa of every rupee we are paying as interest. So, if you look at this sort of come and go, we are on high stress level at all the time. At the same time, if they could have done something with monetizing our gold reserves, which are there with every Indian household, in whatever form or fashion, They've done in sovereign gold bond. They're dissuading people. They've come out with digital gold where you can move to digital gold, and there's no capital gain on that. But overall, personally, if you ask me, I think it will still take some more time for people to actually accept that cotton candy at face value.
Yeah.
People, because everybody has already gone in for their PPFs, they've already purchased the LIC policies, and those LIC policies you can't stop them now just because the government is giving you some incentive on that.
It's also something which is socially accepted.
And
that practice of investment in LIC.
Exactly, and I think because India, we don't have that social security what isn't there in Canada or in other countries. Like when the COVID hit, I mean here we got food grain, right? But in COVID times in Canada, they paid $2,000 per citizen, and they were paying $600 a week in America. Doling out. I mean that sort of money coming into your account is, of course, it makes people lazy also.
Yeah. So before I go to Dr. Kaushik, I wanted to maybe ask you eventually after his thought so that you can think over it. That is next budget, which is going to the election. Will you see a change in this whole savings component, keeping the international national market? I will come to your response. So you can maybe mull over it while Dr. Kaushik is because we proudly said we are 40th position in the innovation and startup global innovation index, and we are sitting in the Silicon Valley, Bangalore here with startup capital, etc. So, but what do you see as major drivers and barriers in the budget for the startup and innovation ecosystem?
Yeah.
And how do you reconcile the points also shared by Mr. Ravi?
I think there are two things. One thing outside the budget that is happening, which it stuck to me a couple of days ago, is this tech layoffs. So why do I say that? If you look at the startup ecosystem globally, whether it's Europe, US, Canada or India, 95% of them fail. Not because they are stupid people running it, it's just the nature of innovation and what happens around it. And the other side of it, what are the constituent factors of a successful startup? If you analyze them, one is there are at least 2 or more people, and at least the average age of successful startup entrepreneurs is 41. Now the demographics is a liability, right? So we don't have 41-year-old, we don't want that, we are proud of what we have. So what is this? If you marry the tech layoffs and the bright star in this campus, you have 2 people, one experienced laid off tech guy and one young energetic person. So we have the right ingredients to make it work. So that is one aspect. The second aspect is you have to capitalize your innovation to become a successful startup, and patent is one of the strongest ways. So we have increased, first time ever, our domestic startups have beaten international startup patent applications. So that's a good turnaround. And the incentives in the budget continues around this. For startups, it will be worst. For incorporation and tax benefits, like Ravi said, for 1 more year, even for filing patents, up to 80% you can get off. So there is a lot of reasons why you could get into the ecosystem space as such. So now the barriers will be, how do you get funding, how do you resolve that? I think no country has got it right completely. Everybody is trying to find their own ways and means, and so are we. And probably eventually next year budget we might get more around it. But as of now we are still learning it. The reason is 77,000 startups, only about perhaps 9,000, maybe Ravi can confirm, are actually benefiting the tax certificate redemption. So that means that's the reason they extended by 1 more year. Can the next ones also take better use of it? So there are a lot more sweet spots. But I also like what I just said, no situation is ideal, right? So there is nothing called a perfect situation. I think we are entering our sweet spot. Like I said, the tech layoffs, the demographics, the policies, and the areas are right from fintech, tourism, IoT, AI, 5G, to any practical, any damn thing that you can think of, there is an application. And we have the brains to do that, the talent as well. There is one more overriding factor which colludes very nicely with this. India is the engineering R&D capital of the world. 30 to 33% of the global R&D budget is spent, and about 46% of that is spent in this city. So if there is anything that can be done anywhere in the world out of potential, it's right here. Now what does it mean to companies is, now they can open more accelerators. So we have a fund for agri-tech acceleration. Now if there are companies who are building their own acceleration, I think it just gets into a storm, upward spiral. So I think more pluses than minus for me.
So, but sustaining those pluses are also important.
Absolutely important.
Maybe
absolutely.
You may want to share some of the ideas, because we'll be also speaking to, through this media,
Absolutely.
young minds.
Sure.
Maybe the demographic dividend to converting that liability into asset.
Yeah.
So maybe you can share afterwards about
Sure.
how to sustain these
Exactly.
drivers,
Very
how to
important
make
point.
it more effective,
Yeah.
and how to reach to tier 2 and tier 3 cities,
Correct.
who are the one which are also, there's a lot of jugaad happening.
Yes.
So how do you bring the jugaad into
Mainstream.
in the mainstream of innovation startup? So coming back to my question, who would want to
I just
take
want,
one?
before that,
Yes,
I just
yes,
one
yes,
small point,
please,
James.
sir.
Now,
Yeah.
I think in the budget,
Yeah.
the finance minister said 50 tourist spots across the country we want to develop.
Yes.
So it's a very good idea. But coming back to overseas travel, I don't know whether any of you have noticed it. For overseas travel, they have made an amendment saying tax collected at source 20%. So tomorrow you're going to USA, paying 2 lakhs to the travel agent, 40,000 will be collected at source. Now
That's,
you can claim the refund.
Yeah.
Tomorrow you can claim the refund, but
But
they want to monitor people who do not have the ability to or not showing income
Yes.
in the returns, or maybe having other sources of income like agriculture or whatever. They want to monitor how much. But what is very bad is 20% is the very high side. So for liberalized remittance scheme also, up to 7 lakh there is no tax collected at source. But that is particularly for education and also for health. There is no TCS.
Yes.
Anything other than that. For example, today a student goes to some university, the fees, there is no TCS.
Yes.
But for the living
Parents
expenses,
going to visit student.
no, the
Okay.
living expenses,
Yes. Yeah.
if they send money, they do TCS. I think this, probably the finance minister wants, okay, you people travel in the
That's the
country, not
That's
go
the-
out.
That's exactly the nudge what I'm telling you. Make in India, Atmanirbhar, travel in India.
So
Don't go.
this I feel 20% is very much on the high side. See now, if you have to pay 2 lakhs to the travel agent, you pay another 40,000 rupees, and it is to your credit. And in fact, the CBDT chairman has said, yes, you can claim it tomorrow,
Yeah.
but you have to wait for that.
So there's a stick behind the cotton.
Absolutely.
So how do you see the next election, and in the sense the transition from this year to the next,
Yeah.
about the savings component? Because I think every other person today has an app of investment in stocks.
Yeah.
Every other young person has an equity stake, knowing or unknowing, or by advice by experts. That how do you see all this emerging? Because I think common man is not able to understand that. Is it a right investment and keeping the budget in the background? Or is it right investment, or is it a dull investment or a passive investment?
So let me just take you back again
Yeah.
with context to where we're talking about the Amrit Kal. We've already entered the Amrit Kal rather. So we've already started seeing 4-5 years, and we're seeing transformation in and around us. The sort of infrastructure, all sorts of things which are happening, and the transparency, compliances. So now what's happening is all this is going to translate into growth for companies. So for the next maybe 15-20 years, anybody rules this country. It makes no difference.
Yeah.
India is unstoppable. There's 1.4 crore people, out of which 30% being the young population. What we are talking, it's unstoppable. You can't stop India.
Yeah.
Whoever, whatever, wherever. So when you know that this is there, what is the best way of capitalizing this? The best way of capitalizing is by investing in large companies. I'm not saying you don't need to use your brains too much. Just follow the index. The index has given you a return of 16%, CAGR return, compounded annual growth rate return, and it's continuing.
Can I ask a footnote there?
Yeah.
Just because again, I'm speaking on behalf of the non-experts.
Yes.
So why is that there is always a increase and downfall in the stock exchange during the budget time? How do you leave?
Right.
So then maybe please don't forget other points.
Yeah.
Bring that, but
Yeah.
in
So
this
basically, what we're talking about is the budget is one of those biggest times when the government actually comes out and shows what they are doing. It's not that, as
Yeah.
Mr. Ravi said, they keep on layering it
Yes.
up anytime they want in between. GST anyway, there's a council.
So the red
that looks at-
suitcase comes on budget.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, but here what happens is there's a sort of built-up expectation, more so because it's our personal taxation. And personal taxation is the one. Now see, if the government is saying that they are giving 35,000 crores to you, that is the savings which you are supposed to have got, 35 to 38,000 crores. That is provided you move to the new regime. That's what I meant. So there is a condition attached. For all you know, it may not work. then what happens to this? So you don't get these benefits. But the government has been plugging, things like big LIC policies and all that. They've been plugged. Those are right. Those are great moves, because wherever you find that there's a lacuna in the system, you do it. Coming to, of course, tourism, yes, they are nudging us. They are definitely nudging us to move in India rather than go abroad.
So how does it influence? Like, we can't have this panel discussion without reference to Adani. Right? So he is being blamed today for the other outcome of budget. So I'm talking about, as you rightly said, we have been nudged to spend, we have been nudged to engage with India.
I wish you were nudged to invest.
So
that is something which is going to be lacking if you move to the new regime.
That is one part. Second is, why does this whole stock market falls or goes up during the budget is what I was trying to come to. Keeping Adani as now, because his
Adani has compounded it, or rather accelerated the movement. Because see what happens, as I was mentioning to you earlier, there's a fear factor in everybody. We humans are more fearful than hopeful. Let's put it that way. So your overriding fear of fear is overrides your hope. And when there's anything which goes wrong, the first thing you want to do is quit, and that's a survival mechanism. And the market actually gives you that. The market, when it suddenly says, oh, now from next financial year you can't do this, you have to do that. So you get fearful. And all these provisions cause fluctuations in the market. Different sectors get benefited. Now, for example, the IT sector gets benefited, or the infrastructure has got benefited. The R&D, which we were talking about of in engineering, the R&D which they have given to pharma this time is huge. I think 150 billion. So I think how much, I'm not sure of the figure, but it's a huge figure.
Increased,
it's a very huge
one of the
figure.
top 9
Exactly.
got increased.
So all these are going to affect. And the beauty of all this is, like, for example, I'll just take one small thing called green hydrogen. People think green hydrogen, what is green hydrogen? But if you look at it, hydrogen is basically what? Hydrogen, you take water and you have to heat it and do some thing, you will get oxygen and water. So H2O. Now what happens is, to take out that hydrogen, you need to use energy. And if you use coal and take out that energy, it doesn't serve any purpose, right? So that's why you want green energy. And luckily for India today, we are using 40% of us, 40% of our energy resources are non-fossil. So we have already started moving in that direction. And that should keep continuing. Now this particular thing, I tell you, green hydrogen, is like one arrow hitting 5 targets. First target it hits, you get energy at a cheaper price. Second, all your pollution which you see in Delhi and all that. Third, everybody's health becomes better because of that. Fourth, you're giving employment to everybody. Fifth, very important, import substitution. You're not buying petrol, you're not buying diesel. So you're not buying fossil fuel or using burning coal. So all these things, when you don't, you look at it, it looks like green, and 35,000 crores this year has been allocated for green energy. So this sort of things trigger the whole thing, and this makes job creation, and where all these things will get boosted.
It's like almost a food cycle. One leading to the other, and that has ripple effects. So for the startup innovation ecosystem, as you mentioned, and the sustenance part of it is one I want to know. And while you talk through it, I'm sure tax will be one important component, which most startup young people are trying to resolve that. So maybe I would ask you to ask the question to Mr. Ravi, that how you would like to see an input on the taxation part. What should be done, which has not been done now, in order to strengthen the startup innovation index. In the budget, you have some inputs, but what could have been done? One is why you share your points on sustaining that. Then following with that.
Maybe the sustaining part is very, very crucial, because the reason why 95% of the startups fail is, like I repeat, not because they are not smart people. The key reason the studies have found across the world is people build what nobody wants. And to sustain any business, even if it is a chai shop outside this campus, he has done his homework. That's why he is there for years. He might have not an MBA from anywhere, but he has done his homework of what is his business case, why people want what they want. So the whole idea of sustenance comes from individual. I think we have been a little bit, and I am glad to see the change. If you see an average standard IT company today, the focus of an individual is paying EMI and do what he's told. And these are the only two things which you need to stop doing if you want to sustain anything in your startup. Because when I started my startup, first time in my life, I had to decide I don't have a laptop.
Yeah.
All the time my company has given me a laptop. So which laptop should I buy was a major decision in my life at 40. I said, this sounds nuts. Oh, what do I do? Where do I sit? What should I have for internet connection? Sounds trivial, but that builds a sense of ownership. When you own things, you face a lot of things with confidence. Startup is, when I assess a startup with juries, 50% is what they present. 50% I look up and down. How do they interact? What do they do? So I once had a guy who was trying to present and say, with this, we want to change the world. I said, you don't have energy to change whatever you're saying to me. How do you change the world? Anything on the PPT, but they have nothing in yourself. So those are the things at an individual level we have to
So to
sustain.
sustain this, how do you see investors coming now with the budgetary?
I have a warning there.
Yeah. So,
Most of the startups, we touched upon it when we were chatting, what is the goal of a startup? If you ask, 9 out of 10 will come short. Their goal is getting funded, especially getting a loan. I don't know why people are happy if they get funded. So their goal should be, am I success? And there is a very clear blueprint for that. Year 1, you have traction. People listen to you. They don't take money out yet. They listen to you. Oh, okay, come and show us what you have. Good sign. Year 2, starts few cents, few rupees, few hundreds of rupees, starts to see. You see money. You don't have it yet. You don't go rich. You don't put your IPO or you get taxes so much to Ravi and so on. Third year is you have to rank money in your account. Then we have to knock on the doors of Ravi, please help. No, I don't know what to do. I have to do this, I have to do that. You were talking about compliance. Absolutely. That is where we need help.
Yes.
Still, there is no, let me put it as a structured course. I'm pretty sure Ravi is working on it or maybe already has it. Where you say, you are going to do a startup, this is your financial literacy course. This is what you need to do. Prepare yourself for success. Don't start tinkering with documents year 3, then people are already breathing down your neck. So I think that is something definitely.
So that would be a good curriculum proposal for
Absolutely.
the institutions here to see whether it can be a module which sir can give input. Sir, now I have
Just to finish that, because that will connect to his point,
Yes.
you have technology and innovation. From that you do a startup.
Yeah.
But it's still not big business. So this transition, we have enough taken care in the budget. The idea, innovation to technology to startup. From startup to business, we need a lot of work.
So, will this budget affect the investors now? They will be a little bit hesitant to invest. Do you think the investors, the one who invest in startups, because they need money?
Sir, this is an ongoing. Startup is a concept. It will be an ongoing. Now I think I want to give a compliment to the principal. BMS Institute of Technology and Management.
Yes.
I think it's a fantastic combination.
Yes.
You have technology and also management.
Yes.
Management don't understand technology, technology don't understand management. Now coming back to the point what friend mentioned here, now what has happened with startups? Startups are two types.
Yes.
One very small, looking at money. The second one got a lot of money. Now the ones who do not have money, as he rightly put it, they just want to create something and they want to grow. But when finance guy wants to invest, when a company wants to do, they come to us.
Yes.
Please do the due diligence.
Yes.
Please see the compliances are done. They are not bothered. Now this is going to be very critical. And at the end of the day, when they have grown and the product is good, and when the investor comes in, he says, okay, come on, I want my money to take. Many of these things are not like that. Now the startups have to also, they should give a lot of emphasis on the finance, because finance is the lifeline of any company that they don't understand. And compliances are equally important. Once for compliance, you have to pay heavy penalties. Is it worth it?
Yes.
And on the other hand, they don't, one of the major issues is they do not have the ability to pay. That's another point. So many times, I'm sure in US or in Israel, what they do is the financial advisors or whatever, they take some equity. They take their professional fee in the form of equity. And tomorrow they also get benefit. They don't charge them, but they take equity. Now these sort of refinements have to happen, but startup, a lot of thinking is happening in the department. In the income tax, they are giving a lot of concessions, exemptions, and all that. But however, 95% failure. That is the.
So will this increase the number of sharks or affect the efficiency? What do you think?
The fact is, last year the investment dropped.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
investment has gone.
yeah.
But
But those
see,
are
at the end of the day,
investors.
the good startups will prosper. good startups will prosper. Now, fly by night will not. And they are very fact that so many patents are. See, one of the very most important aspects which we have seen from the MSME point of view, the government is not giving a lot of support for R&D. See, research and development is one of the important aspects for a small, forget about Volvo or big company, but smaller companies, they don't have money. Now the government has to give some sort of incentives for R&D. They say, okay, you invest in R&D, we'll give you 200% reduction. Or for a cluster, they should provide all R&D for the particular cluster. This is what is lacking, and that is the reason German, Japanese, Israel, these sort of companies are doing very well in R&D. Now, I think slowly and steadily we will come into it, but the government in this budget also has not given much emphasis for incentives for R&D.
Yes. But we do have R&D ecosystem, but incentivizing that.
All government based.
Yeah, government based, but incentivizing for the startups is very, very useful. But I just had one imaginary thought, and you can also reject that question. I am just of the argument based on the discussion that we had. See, an idea converted into startup into business. The last phase, how does that appear in the capital market? And what, will that create a more incentive or a more driver or more sustainability for that? How do you see it in the last 5-6 years that has happened?
Now what has happened is, I think we've seen tremendous value growth and value erosion in startups. So like what happens is, before they come into the market, there's no acid test. So you can get away with anything. You know, you can give good presentations, and as long as one big boy is investing, the whole bandwagon will follow. Now that's changed. There are two reasons. One reason why investments have dropped actually into startups is because money earlier was available for free. Just some time back, what was the interest rate? It was nothing in the US. It was 0.5%. So from 0.5%, it's now 3.5–4%. So now money is costing you. If money costs you, then every year, if that startup is not doing well, you're going to bleed, right? Otherwise, earlier it is theek hai, dekha jayega. You know, we don't bleed that much. So that's one of the reasons why angel investing actually. Second, of course, as you said, sir, that 95% of the startups tend to fail because of this. So people have realized it's not all hunky dory. Everything is not good at every such level. What happens is, when you come to the market, that's when your true value is discovered. And we've seen, unfortunately, merchant bankers, have pumped up, and we've seen what has happened to Policy Bazaar, what has happened to Card Trade, what has happened to Zomato, or what has happened to Nykaa. If you look at all these examples, Paytm. So all these examples, if you see, were very highly, richly valued pre-IPO. The moment they came with the IPO, the market realized that, okay, I understand that, you can keep making losses, but the shareholder wants some money, right? So that's when the market starts stripping you literally of all that fluff which you have developed, and gives you your hardcore valuations. So what unfortunately is that, of course, seeing that, the angel investors also move back, because now they realize that, oh, I thought this company is valued at X, but by the time it comes to the market will make it Z.
Correct.
So that is exactly what happened.
That was an outcome of previous budgetary ecosystem.
Right.
But with the current budgetary ecosystem, you see this trend continuing, or?
No, I see this continuing also for one more reason.
Or rather increasing?
No, I think people are going to be more sharper while investing in startups. One is also this new angel tax which has come up.
Yeah.
So now this angel tax gives a discretion of something called fair value of the company.
You can share something on that.
So if you can just highlight us on that, because they are talking of a fair value of a company, and if suppose they are giving shares more than that value, then the company has to show that as a profit. Now that's something which is I'm not very sure.
Basically, you can remember the offer price to the face value difference there to pay that. Now, if you see who are the people like you and me, we invest in the bank equities. Then we go a little further, we go into the shares. Now, who are the people investing in the startups? The HNIs.
Yes.
Very high net worth individuals and trusts. They want to make big money, 30, 40, 50, whatever. And the risk element is also there. But as far as there has been a lot of talk about this taxing on startups, whether we have to tax it more or we have to tax it less. See, it's a very, very difficult thing, as I told you. On one side, we have struggling startups who are not successful. On the other side, startups which have become very, very successful. And if you have seen even some of the startups, the valuation is so high, they come down by nearly 30 to 40%. Their issue price, they come down by 20-40%. Now, for the government also, it is also worried. If I start levying more tax on the smaller ones, they are affected. On the bigger ones, they have got the affordability, but they cannot do it. So this dilemma is happening, and we are still in the initial stages of taxing the startups. I think it has to, over a period of time, it has to improve upon, the government has to see how it works, and then I think
so. One of the major takeaway of this, which I feel, because I'm thankful to the context of union budget and the institution organizing this, because at least we are now evident of the fact that it is not just a person with an idea, it's a person who translates the idea into action. That is one part, that is the R&D part, but more importantly is finance and the whole investment ecosystem. So that ecosystem of collectively bringing is very, very critical. I think one of the takeaways, as you rightly said, sir, that engineering management is a right occasion to bring them together, because then they are not in blind. They know what is there and see through it. Because some of these things that we see today in popular media, Shark Tank, that has become now the new advisory for youngsters, there are also a lot of lacunas. The understanding is that it is not as simple as it gets. So these things has to be definitely thought through.
Just to tell you, most of the sharks, all the companies they own are bleeding, except for a few.
Yes, so see, that is what. So that holistic understanding of the ecosystem for a youngster who is starting with the advice of a senior person who is giving their input is very, very important. I think that is a
one very important point. I am a chartered accountant. Hitherto, our chartered accountants' way of practice was very different.
Yes.
Today, for the entire ecosystem being changed into online, e-commerce, everything, now it has become very essential that a chartered accountant also has to use technology in a big way.
Yes.
So today, the big companies are engaging 300-400 techies to do programs. I can't, earlier I used to have 1,000 watches, I used to physically verify my voice. Today, you have to use programs and start seeing the e-commerce transactions. And I feel there is a marriage of technology and even finance. So it's high time that we people have to get to know more about the technology, and the technology people have to learn the domain experience of chartered accountants. Or there should be a marriage of both, a joint venture of both. Otherwise, this what I did 20, 30 years back and today, the whole concept of audit has changed.
So I will take this occasion to maybe tell the audience also and to all of you that national education policy talks about multidisciplinary ecosystem, and that is where, as you said, management, engineering, economics, commerce, humanities, languages, liberal arts, etc. has to be an experience, which I think all of the major institutions are doing it already. I think it's an occasion to reflect on why we need hands-on exposure. So the 3 H they say, heart, hand and head have to come together. I think that is, but anyway sir, I would now like to close the panel with your one-line statements for young and aspirational India. So let's start with Dr. Kaushik because he's with the young team, and we all three are young by mind and heart, but he works closely with them. So I'll start with you.
Sure. Well, I think, very briefly, because you mentioned very important point about research. I think we're still hovering around the 0.9% of our GDP, where infrastructure is about 3.5% of our GDP. So I think if you compare to a developed country, they hover around 1.5 to 2.2%. So, but to contextualize to your question, there is a nice definition of research and innovation. Actually, they are two different things. Research is where you put in money and you get knowledge out. Okay, I invest in a project, I invest in a study, and input is money, output is knowledge. Innovation, which we are talking today, and startup and business, is where I use that knowledge and convert back into money.
Yes.
I think we need to emphasize on the second. And the budget may not have done the first, but we are focusing on the second. And there is plenty of opportunities for second. Like I said, medical devices, fintech, tourism, clean technology, sustainable technology, IoT, AI, 100 labs only for 5G applications. I would have loved to be 20 years younger, to be honest. Really.
You can be the mentor.
It's so tempting, you know. It's like, what do I do now? So, plenty of opportunities. I think if you combine that with ownership, that I would bring something to the table, then the money will come. Many of the successful startups don't get funded. That's the truth. And many of the startups that are funded are 1,600 crore losses even today.
Oh.
More the loss, more the valuation.
I don't want to take names, but all the big names are 1,500 crore plus losses. Right? So I think people should own up, use this, and may not be a bad idea to do things for India in India.
Yeah, this is almost like that build, operate and own. This is our model of PPP also.
Yeah, indeed.
Yes. So, what is your statement in the Contours of Union budget to all the viewers? One statement that you would like to make.
I think this union budget, or the last few union budgets, it is being more on the macro level, on the direction, of the goal. I think that is what the government has to do, rather than thinking that 1 year we do A, B, C. No, I think they are going in the right direction, and well, it again depends on which party or which government is going to come. But one thing is for sure, as mentioned earlier, we are on the right path. We are today considered one of the, I would say, the fast, subject to 1 or 2 incidents like Adani. But we are going on the right path, and I think India is respected well. And the technology today, even my American friends, they are shocked when I show them the app for the COVID. They are shocked when he sees that the tender coconut guy asking QR code. See, that way we are much ahead, and I think we should be all proud of our country, and I hope we are hopeful that we go the same way in the future also.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Ahuja, the world's youngest overhead shaker.
I think one has to be hopeful but scared at the same time. Now, why do I say
sticking to the cotton candy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Reason being is, I don't know whether most of you are aware of developments in AI. And developments in AI are earth-shattering. Now, I don't need a copywriter for my ads. I just put it on ChatGPT and I say, use persuasive language, roll it out. 10 seconds, 20 seconds later, I get my copyrighted. Grammarly perfect, everything perfect. What is the implication of this? The implication of this is tremendous, because we don't know whether, we've been the back office capital of the world, the BFSI. Bangalore is the back office capital. Will it remain? In the next 10 years is the biggest question. The leapfrogging of technology which is happening can make you redundant very, very fast. So, my concern, I'm greatly happy that we have 100 5G labs coming up, a lot of innovation, and we are talking about robotics, we're talking about drones, we're talking about green hydrogen. We are forward looking, and actually this is the need of the hour. Because if you don't have this in place, you never know. And technology is fickle, remember that. I mean, our generation, I learned typing on a typewriter. Literally. If I show somebody a typewriter, he said, what is this?
Keep it in museum.
Yeah. So, typewriter, electronic typewriter, then it's printers, etc. So, you see this being we've seen it. I mean, stock market, I've seen it from hand signals we used to do, buy, shout, scream, like a fish market, to handhelds. Now I do it on my fingers like this. So, we've seen this entire thing, and we can see that, if you ask me as a person who has seen this change, I've seen shares getting dematted, I've seen, things happen which we can't even imagine. Getting money in the next day. Today we are T+1. The world does not move to T+1. That's transaction. That means you sell today, you get your money tomorrow morning, tomorrow evening, close the banking hours. We have RTGS and facilities.
That investor education fund, they said,
yes,
they're putting it into the portal, and if you have some dividend not come or some shares are in your name, you can just access them.
So that's also creating accessibility.
And nobody in the world has got it.
Yes, that's true.
So we have actually. I had a opportunity to meet Sir Albert Berkeley III, who was the NASDAQ chairman. And when he came to India, he was saying, we are doing this, we are doing that, and our whole team members were smiling. Boss, abhi tum 5 saal piche ho. Believe it or not, we were 5 years ahead of US when it came to technology, even then. And even in IT, today, we are. My only thing to the youth today is maintain that distance.
Yes.
You never know when technology will come over and overtake you, or some other country will come and overtake you. It's nice to be in a sweet spot, but don't get complacent.
Yes. So
because that is the key to it. And as I think Instagram took 5 months to get 1 billion users or something. ChatGPT
4 days.
in 5 days, 4 days.
I think next time you will not even ask us
You
for
may
our
not-
biodata. Go to ChatGPT and say, "Okay, Ravi," and use it.
No, they may not even have a discussion.
This was exactly what one of the chartered accountants told me.
Yes.
I told him about ChatGPT. He said, he said, you don't know because all you need to do is just put your process and say, give me the best solution for my
So in
tax.
essence, what we
So,
see is,
or do my coding, and coding is already being done.
Correct.
We have traders. You can go on YouTube and say that it's called PineScript editor. You can just go and say chat like, okay, if 5-day moving average crosses the 20-day, please code it in PineScript. It will code it perfectly.
so there is this spectrum of hope and fear.
Exactly.
And disruption is somewhere in the middle. So I think I would take this opportunity to conclude the panel discussion forcibly because ideas are just flowing. So I cannot cut that, but I'm sure it will continue to flow. There is phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. As they say, Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4 in the taxation. So we'll have that layers. But I think it has been a very exciting discussion, at least for me, great learning. Very important is that you have given a lot of advice and direction around the budget, and I also reached out to the last person in the way you shared examples and thoughts around it. And there's more because it's one of the world's biggest and most sought after document today, because while India is becoming globally visible, everybody is looking for what is there in the budget, not only in country but also across the globe. It's very difficult to do it in 60-90 minutes, the whole summary. But I think we got some great insights which are important to take forward, and more importantly, direction for education institution, how they can also look towards contributing to this. I think with this, I really thank all three of you for your insights, and I thank the institution, also BMSIT&M Management, Department of Management, for organizing this very thoughtful and timely discussion.
I think we also thank you for this.
Thank you.
Very enlightening too. I think most of us benefited enormously. And thanks for your inputs in this particular discussion. Wonderful. We would love to have these kinds of discussions in future too. But now just a small question. We could see a lot of good allocations. Right behind you there is a screen. Okay, maybe especially roadways, railways, airports. See whatever it is, there are 100, maybe close to about 10 lakh crores are being diverted towards infrastructure projects and so on. Innovation, so many things. That's okay. But the effectiveness of this allocation and spending largely depends on the efficiency with which the resources are used. Especially, I'm talking this keeping in mind the word corruption. Corruption at all levels from top to bottom. Whichever government, I am not very interested in it. The government machinery sucks this money. And what will happen to the impact of the allocation that we are making here? This is what, have they addressed this issue in the budget, largely okay, what is it that we do in terms of vigilance to make sure that the money that is being spent on these areas are properly utilized to the possible extent? I didn't see any such kind of a pronouncement anywhere in the budget. This is first thing. Second thing is, we have taken so many years, after 34 years, we have promulgated what is called as National Education Policy. And National Education Policy is expected to be widely comprehensive, to bring the rural population along with the urban population, make one India instead of divided India like. And we see a great divide looking at the literacy, maybe digital literacy or general education at the rural area, greatly different from what is happening in the urban centers over there. If the gap keeps increasing in the days to come, the country gets divided, and the interest of everybody lies in becoming one. How are we actually integrating this rural mass with this whatever developments that we are talking about, AI, fund that, this and so on? We are very far off. When the budget is focusing heavily on this, does it say anything about bringing that rural mass also?
The second question I will come back to.
Yeah,
second, the first one, since if I can maybe lead that first part that you mentioned about corruption issues, the biggest challenge is, maybe Mr. Ravi sir can, and then both can also add, is tax evasion and also this black economy, black market, as I think if I understand rightly. So what has the government done to surveil that and organize it effectively so that that doesn't happen, for effective allocation to be implemented? So, and then maybe for startup also and for stock market.
As far as I can understand, if you have seen today, this annual information return is being filed by different agencies. If you spend 5 lakhs in the credit card company will give it to the government. Again, you have a deposit in the bank. So a lot of these agencies, whether it's insurance, mutual funds, everything is getting auto-populated into the EIR system. Now, annual information statement, now if you go to your auditor and say, he'll say, hey, you got some dividend income.
They know more about myself.
Yeah, they know more about you. So this, to a certain extent, has seen to that many of you cannot escape. And that is the reason this TCS and TDS and all are coming. They want to put everybody into the tax net, because our tax net as of today is still about 5.6 or 6. It's about 5 to 6% now. Earlier it was 2 to 3%. Now it's increased, but still it is not sufficient, mainly because of agriculture. Lot of agriculture. What we have been telling as a chairperson, I have been telling them, why don't you do one thing? Up to 5 acres or up to 3 acres, you say no tax. Above that you charge. But that is a very political decision, and there are two. There's a state government and central, both have to. It's in the second list, so that will take some. I don't know anybody who's got the will to do that. And as far as the Jan program, see, a lot of these amounts which are credited to the bank accounts of all these farmers or various incentive schemes have to a great extent gone, but still the end use is still not reaching the government. This we know. You can see any of our municipalities and all that, they didn't even have, they had cash system of accounting. If you not believe, 5 years back, BBMP had cash system. That means what I get is I receive, what I have to pay is gone. So they don't say, this man is still not paid, I have to show it on accrual basis. That was not there. So this is going to be we have gone quite far, but still it's not sufficient. End use of funds, not like this company comes to the banker and says, give me money, and the end use I have to certify. That end use of funds is still not happening. That until that doesn't happen, the leakage will be there.
So I think we get those statements look very nice again when you look at it at face value, but when you analyze how you reach that statement, you realize that all the whitewashing has already been done. They have bled literally, and it's actually taxpayers' money which has gone.
But the allocation to capital expenditure and infrastructure through that, what sir was keen to know was that, sir, also you invest, you allocate, but actually the ground level doesn't reach.
Now, last year they have done some
also reflect on the lower productivity of asset creation. For example, roads, which is supposed to last, let's say 5 years, gets last only for 1 year. The productivity of the asset itself comes.
I was just reading, they have spent so many crores to fill potholes.
Yeah, 3,000 crores.
Yeah, something, it's astounding number, right? It's not a small number by any chance.
But I think in NEP also there is a reference to this value and ethics-based education, etc. But integrated. But sir, National Curriculum Framework for the second part of the question, and the NEP and the Kothari Commission before that in 1968 onwards and 1986. So there is a reference to an idea of school complexes. So what happens is we are investing, even budget allocation, I was telling Mr. Ahuja, that recently, yesterday in Kolkata we were discussing that there are 8 to 9 ministries funding on education, but they don't talk to each other. Right? And they are literally like Pandavas and Kauravas, literally. They don't talk to each other. And but they're spending on same thing. One is giving for scholarship, one is giving for infrastructure, one is giving for skill development, one for tribal affairs, tribal minority affairs, Minister of Women and Child Welfare, which has close to 14,000 crore allocation for Anganwadis and Asha workers, who are all linked to education. So now on 27th or 26th, either of these days, there's a discussion on bringing all the secretaries together and to understand, because, and also these ministries are some focus on urban, some on rural. That is also another component. So there is a discussion going to happen, first time in the history of India since independence, that they are going to talk to each other and see what they
achievement by
Yeah, that I am thankful to Dr. Kasuranan for thinking on that. It happened recently also in IISc when we had the curriculum framework. So there is a discussion, but when it will happen, we don't know. But that is the process I started. Coming to the school cluster, there is a school well-to-do within the radius of 3-4 kilometers to a school which is not well-to-do. And this is the right place where we are. So we are very close to urban, at the same time we are rural by administrative definition. So how can you develop a cluster and a complex and strengthen your human resource requirement by sharing, infrastructure requirement by sharing, etc. That is one component which there is also reference to. And making schools self-sufficient. Why? Because we have to talk about it, because we are always looking to global. And that's why we want all this thing. But NEP says localizing your requirement. Your local context says, even Northeast for example, bamboo is their, central to their society and life. What else you can teach through bamboo? One is that. then bringing IT by referencing your clustering model. So you have to be having combination of modernity and tradition. That NCF and NEP has referred to it, and NCF school education is coming through in the month of March. So that will also give you directions. But unfortunately, the conundrum is the concurrent list of the constitution. So things come from there, but when it comes to state, there are other challenges. But at least currently in Karnataka, they have done few. See, Nali Kali, Chilipili, the two programs have reached to almost all rural schools. And they have said, what is that, the magic box, teaching learning resource, is self-made by children. And until they are grade 2, they learn by self-made materials. They don't have to depend on anybody else. But overarchingly, WhatsApp has reached everybody. Right? It has become a new university, as we say. That is also happening. So I think we are in the transition phase. As NEP says, 2030 is the direction, not today and tomorrow. And that's another, I've seen a lot of people criticizing, saying they have said big things, but happening, we see situation. But it's all 2030, 2035. So yes, so that is my quick response, but we get a lot more.
Thank you.
What other points have they done in this budget to curb the inflation? Because that was one point which everyone was talking about prior to budget, that the inflation has to be looked into how they will control. Because since they have not put any stress or any pressure to increase the savings, I don't foresee how they will be able to put a stop on the inflation growing.
I just found when you talk about inflation today, any country, India, it's dependent on various global factors. Today you talk about Ukraine war, it has an effect on us. You talk about any other aspect which is affecting the world, is affecting the logistics, China, we have a problem. COVID, we have a problem. So according to me, yes, inflation, when you compare to other countries, we are much, absolutely far ahead of them. We are quite comfortable. But inflation as such, again, in the budget, I don't think you'll find anything to combat inflation.
No, but they should have taken some type of step at least to increase the savings potential.
Sir, now I think the 30, 40, 50% of boys, you please ask them whether they want to save or they want to spend. That is what is going to happen. You have to, they feel more expenditure, more money coming into the market, more coming money in the market, more of, I would say, investment, infrastructure, manufacturing. That is the way they see.
I would have seriously, admired the Honourable Minister if she had just done one thing. LPG is there in every house. And that's a bone of contention because natural gas prices have gone haywire. We agree, LPG and natural gas prices have gone
increased
substantially. Yeah. The point is, rather than doing other stuff, all you need to do is just cut it down by 200 rupees a cylinder and say, this is my contribution towards your. And please understand one more thing, which, when prices go up in this country, unfortunately, they don't come down at the same way. And, unless there's an election or something. For example, let's take crude. Crude touched $120 a barrel. After that, it came down to $80. Currently, it's around that. We are getting crude at a 30% discount to $60 a barrel from Russia. You can check the Hindustan Petroleum results recently, GPCL results. That show that the crude prices have come down, but has your petrol or has your diesel come down? This is something where I see that there is no intent. The government is so stressed out borrowing money and trying to put it into infrastructure and make payments and pensions. And in fact, this time, if you notice, every time whenever you have a budget before elections, and we call it a populistic budget, this was the last one. The next one which we are supposed to address that question is the vote on account.
They'll steal your idea of LPG.
Yeah.
Next one.
The thing is, when you have something which you can give directly, that because inflation for us is imported today. Today it's an imported inflation. We are a global part of a global, family, and anything happening anywhere in the world affects you. So with that, we saw sunflower oil go from 130 rupees to 200 rupees in Ukraine because Ukraine is the largest producer of edible sunflower in the world. So when you look at it from that angle, so anything and everything can affect you. All they needed to do was, this is our fight against inflation. We would like to reduce they could have reduced petrol prices now, they could have reduced diesel prices, They have an APM which can take care of automated price mechanism. But that would have shown intent. And LPG was in her hand, that would have shown, and she would have won over all the housewives. I can tell you, if you give a housewife 200 rupees off, say boss, you're very nice.
But one thing,
And that would have helped inflation.
Post-COVID, there has been 30% increase in all the costs, particularly the buildings and all that. Everything has gone up tremendously due to various reasons. And for your information, people are ready to pay 30,000 rupees for one night stay in this JW Marriott in Nandi. It's 30,000 rupees.
Milk has gone up 3 rupees a litre today.
Now, see, there is money. Earning money is as tough as it was earlier, but spending it's gone up.
Department of MBA who organized this event and making it a grand success. Thank you all for the being here.